Brought to you by Telehelping, a virtual assistant staffing company for professionals.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cody Hall. I am the host of The Faces Entrepreneurs Are People Too, and the founding CEO of Telehelping, a virtual staffing organization, and the herein sponsor of our podcast. Thank you for all those who are returning. If you love our show, want to be a part of it, or want to share it out, please like and subscribe so that we may continue to offer all these great people to the world. Good morning, Laresa. How are you doing?
I'm great today, Cody. How are you?
Oh, I'm wonderful. Like I told you in our pre-conversation, I've been excited to have you on my podcast since our pre-call and introduction. So before we do get on some tangents, which having a podcast and being me, I'm notorious for, Laresa, tell us, who are we talking to today? Who's
Sure.
Laresa?
My name is Laresa McIntyre. I am a fractional CFO and founder of Rockbridge CFO, a fractional CFO firm. So I'm out there helping founders and executives really getting some financial clarity around their business and helping them make sure they've got the right financial insights so that they can continue to grow.
Great. Well, Laresa, I want to start off because I don't think many people understand what a fractional CFO does. I think as soon as you say fractional CFO, I have a CPA, I have a bookkeeper, Laresa. So do I get the same type of value?
Well, bookkeepers are really about recording the past. They're wanting to make sure that you've got the right financial information in your financial statements, that you're all good from a tax perspective. And obviously, your CPA is focused on making sure that your taxes are good and that your financial statements are stated correctly. Really, what a CFO is there to do is to take you to the next level. They're very forward looking, trying to give you insights about your business, taking that financial data that you get from your bookkeeper or your CPA and really transcribing it into the insights so that you can figure out, what's my next move in the business to try and help me grow. So really, the CFO is kind of that next level. It's not the past, but more the future.
Correct. And I do like that because without a strategy or like a roadmap, do we really know where we're going? Right. And I think that's a common thing with a lot of folks in businesses. And I see it as I run my own, right? And then I see it because we have a really cool lens into companies, being the virtual assistant staffing organization
Yeah.
for them. We get to see a lot of companies. And most folks are really just focused on, as I say, the end of their nose, right?
Mhm.
That's as far as they see. They're like, okay, I got a client, I got that issue. What was that? They don't really know where they're going to be a year from now. So when companies are in that kind of stage, like what is a good stage? I mean, it's great to always know where you're heading at any stage, even from zero revenue, but kind of what area of the market are you in terms of cap size?
I usually work with companies that are in that 1 million to 40 million range. Taking on a CFO is a big salary. And I think for a lot of these businesses, they need that financial insight, but they really can't afford to hire a full-time CFO. And that's where somebody like myself, who's a fractional, can come in. We spend enough time with you to be able to give you that information that you need and be that sounding board for you without having to worry about, the 250, 300, $400,000 salary.
Yeah.
Um, because CFOs are not cheap.
No, they are not cheap. Actually, I remember the last CFO salary I had. Luckily, we get away with just having a controller here because I act as my own CFO. So
Yeah.
uh, the benefits of I have a master's in public accounting. I have a Mac, and so doesn't make me a CFO. Just so we're clear, it just makes me have a greater understanding of the importance of numbers. And
Yeah.
so, and because of that, and because of my concentration on that, I focus on that. So what I'm saying, everyone, is if you don't have a CFO, you are your CFO. And
That's right.
so, I remember a great advisor I had. He was a COO of the fourth largest emergency medicine company in the United States. They were worth like a cool billion or four. And he said, if you don't know what your numbers are, what's in your pocket, or what your company can do with its cash at any point in time, he's like, then you don't know anything. And
Yeah.
so, we always have to keep an eye on it. I just think that when you come in, it's because CEOs have too many hats at that point in time. So they have to hand them off, I imagine.
Yeah. And, a founder, sometimes they have a great idea. They've launched their business based on, what they have a passion for. And they may not have an accounting background. They may not have a grounding in finance. And it does make it a little more challenging for them in that situation because they're looking at financial reports. They're kind of looking at ratios and numbers, and it may not mean a whole lot to them. Whereas, when they can engage with somebody like me who this is what I do, they can get a lot more clarity and understanding of it because I try not to talk in accounting terms. It does everybody a disservice when you're just being very technical. You want to make sure
Right.
that when you're having a conversation, they understand what it is that you're talking about. And I try to be, everyman when I talk the accounting stuff.
Like I said, that's so funny because it's like when I tell my mom, no matter how slow she talks in English, people in Spanish can't understand her, right? It's a real thing because it's natural to be like, I want this. And like that doesn't help. The speed in
No,
which you're saying it does not change the understanding and comprehension. And
that's right.
so I love that perspective. And, that's I get the opportunity because I don't do social media. Just so everyone here knows that if you're talking to me on social media, it's not LinkedIn. You're not talking to me. You're talking to someone who works on my team because I don't social media. What I like to do is I like to scroll through buy, sell, biz, right? And so I like to look at companies. And when I am looking to acquire organizations, I think that's where people understand kind of the shocking understanding that what your company makes in revenue or what you put in your pocket doesn't translate into a purchase price, right? And
Right.
so, I look at, so it's like one of the favorite ratio I have, which is like your cardiovascular health, your
Mhm.
VO2 X.
Yep.
I look at that like the GP to CAC, the gross profit to client acquisition costs. Like I look at those two numbers as how healthy your heart is and how healthy your gross profit to client acquisition costs. How much money do you spend to get every client? And like
Right.
those ratios I look at, and when I talk to someone and say, oh, well, you're looking at like a 1.5 to 1. So you're spending a lot of what the money the business makes to get clients. So basically you're in business to be in business. And so that's not really valuable to me. I think that the ratios, oftentimes when people hear ratios, they're like, oof, not an accountant, oof, not a CEO. But you really need to know what your ratios are. YouTube will help. CFOs will help because it tells you kind of what I refer to as the blood work of the businesses. What
Yep.
does your cholesterol look like?
Exactly. I mean, one of my favorite ratios is actually revenue per employee. It really gives you a good sense of, do you have your staffing right? Are you overstaffed for what you're drawing into the business? I like that number as a kind of a health check as well.
Yeah. And the great thing is for everyone listening, those ratios at any point in time may be poor without context, right? And
Correct.
so, if we are just talking telehelping has been rolling up virtual staffing organizations and buying them because we take in other people's clients and put them into our infrastructure, which it works really well, and they live in our ecosystem. When we look at organizations that people are like, oh, if you were to look at our books right now, in complete honesty, we spend a lot of money on purchasing things, right? On costs of client acquisition, right?
Hmm.
Without context, you look at it's like, wow, they're not really making a lot of money. You are absolutely right. We're not making a lot of money. However, in 2 to 3 years, when I pay off all these acquisitions, right, and I retain the clients, right, it's a different number. Now the ratio is different. Much like you, I can honestly look at a time I overstaff my organization at the beginning. Mostly everyone is so
Yep.
I don't have to do so much work, right? I want
Hmm.
someone else to do the work. And so if you're sitting there like, you're not making a lot of money, but you have a lot of staff, you have infrastructure and management and people that are bracing for hopefully growth, like AKA a year later, we're acquiring a bunch of companies, right? And so context is very important and the strategy behind it, which comes from the CFO.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the context, to your point, is so important. If you don't understand what's going on in the business, it's difficult to understand what it is that you're looking at. And, a lot of people that I talk to are like, "Well, you're just a fractional. How are you gonna be able to see what's going on and have that context?" Well, it does require you to have good interactions. I like to do things so that, um, the owners or the founders feel like they aren't on a clock. Business doesn't stop just because, you've run out of the hours maybe somebody allotted for you for the month. That's why I don't work in hours. I work on a retainer because I want to be involved in understanding the context of what's happening in the business. That's the only way I can really add value is knowing
Yeah.
what's going on.
No. Yeah. I mean, I think that's one thing that being able to explain your value and articulate it's important. And I think that I'm a very value-based person as well, because when you explain cost to people, they automatically, the process around your values is through their interpretation. So like, oh, is Larissa Larissa's value X dollars per month to me? Well, I don't know. Well, what does she do? Well, I'm not really sure what she does. Versus like, hey, like this is what we're aiming to do and be able to articulate that's very important. And I think that you have to be in a very special need at a certain size to understand the value of a CFO. And if you don't, either you haven't gotten there yet or you're under a mountain and and you can't see it yet.
Right.
No, that's
Exactly.
wonderful. So when you're not CFOing it to all these companies and, being a fractionalized person, what's the personal life like? I believe you were in France recently when we
I
first
was,
started, all
I
right?
was.
That's crazy.
We Yeah, we live in Florida, and it gets super hot here in the summertime. Anybody that's from Florida knows exactly what I'm talking about. And last year we went to, France for a month.
That's
We
awesome.
went to Paris and did some of the south of France. And this year we were like, we have the opportunity, so we ended up spending 3.5 months in Paris this year.
Wow.
And it was awesome. We got a couple of side trips in. We went to Iceland, which was phenomenal. No, if you haven't never been to Iceland, I would highly put that at the top of your bucket list.
Is that the one with the
Um,
blue ice? Is that it's the
Ice
one that has like a spring, right? I don't know. I've seen it on like online before, and I've known people who go. I don't know. It's definitely
Yeah.
Iceland. I don't want to be like Trump here and get my Iceland and Greenland's mixed up here.
No, Iceland is, a small island, but it's got lots of volcanic activity. It's got tons of waterfalls. It actually is where the European and the North American tectonic plates meet. So that's why there's so
Wow.
much volcanic
And
activity there.
that's why they have the hot spring. So it was the correct place.
I'm sorry?
So it was the correct. I'm definitely talking about the correct place then, because if it has all the hot springs and everything, it's
Yep.
100%.
Yep. Definitely. But
I
yeah, it
love
was
I love
awesome
hot
to go
springs.
there. It was great. So yeah, we travel, get to see different parts of the world. We like to travel in the US too. And we just hang out as a family and enjoy each other's company and, share stories and ideas and, you know, it's family's very important. It keeps you grounded.
That very much so. And so how many children do you have?
I just have the one. He's
Okay.
actually in Florida Atlantic University in his junior year now.
Oh,
Uh,
very nice.
so yeah, yeah.
Well, my family's young. I have a 3-year-old and I have a um I don't know, 5-month old. And then I have a bonus daughter who's 12. Not my biggest fan, but when you inherit a teenager, what are you expecting? And so I didn't expect to come in. There was a period of time though where I was number one. I don't know where I land on the top 10 anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm a very rigid person. And so, but that's great because family is very important to us, like very important to us. We, every Saturday or Sunday, generally we pick Saturdays, we go to the beach all day together. Like
That's
we have a setup. We back up to the water. We tents, coolers, chairs, surfboards, and music, and we sit there all day. And we usually time it with the tide pools. And
mhm.
so when the tide goes all the way out, we have the rock pools, and it's like perfect area for my son not to drown. And
Yep.
so, because he's very brave, right? And so, at least there, I know that he's just going to be very calm water, which he can navigate by himself. Other than that, disclaimer to all those Cabo San Lucas and everything, the water here is very dangerous. So, if you come here and you see the beautiful water, it kills at least one tourist a month. Keep that in mind. And so, don't just go running into the ocean.
Yeah.
But that's great. I mean, you have to be focused and grounded. I think family is our bedrock, right? It's what we're going to fall back on. At the end of the day, if everyone in the world could hate me, do my kids love me? Does my wife like me? Right? She always loves me, but does she like me? It's so very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. My husband, he's always been a big supporter and I support him. So, we always share ideas and it's a really good ability to be able to have somebody you can talk to all the time.
No, I agree. My wife runs our restaurants and stuff, and so she's someone who is, I call it, she operates those P&Ls. And so, but for the most part, the smaller P&Ls, but for the most part, she just kind of runs our everyday world, right? Make sure the lights
Mhm.
stay on. And I've, for someone who's not necessarily very business experienced, she's very in tune with people. And since most of our businesses involve Mexican-based staff,
Mhm.
she's invaluable with interpreting things like people, culture, and outcomes, and things like that. So I lean on her a lot as my sounding board, which is important. You need someone to talk to versus your dog who doesn't really say much back to me.
Exactly.
No, that's wonderful. And so when I mean, your family, your husband, is he in the finance space as well?
No, actually, his company, is a BPO consulting company. So, basically, he goes and matches BPOs with clients. So, companies
Man,
that
talking
are
about
looking
he's my new best friend. I'm
Yeah, so when, companies are looking for, that BPO partner, he can certainly help from that perspective.
wonderful. Well, I'm now gonna find him on LinkedIn. So I like matchmaking services. We have a couple that have served us very well. They're not my main source of clients, but sometimes when you don't know kind of what you're looking for, and I tell
Right.
people out there, and I know this because I know the virtual assistant BPO space very well, you can pick the wrong partner. And so,
Exactly.
and if it goes sour in the international business world, there's sometimes not a whole lot you can do about it. Right? It's
Right.
just one of those things that, as we say in Spanish, es lo que es, like it is what it is, right? And it's a sunk cost. You have to
Yep.
start over. So pick your marriage wisely when it comes to a BPO.
Yeah, and, there's good ones and bad ones, and, luckily, he's got a lot of great people in his portfolio that he can go to match people up with. So,
That's wonderful.
yeah.
That's interesting matchmaking. And then that explains why you have so much experience in the BPO space. So, and you understand that world so well. Well,
Yes.
as you're seeing your organization grow and you're kind of putting in your path to the future, kind of where do you see that wanting to be? Because as someone who hands out the strategic advice and direction on things, like where do you see your strategic advice and direction?
Wow. Look, was in the corporate world for a long time, and being able to help one founder in one business and helping them grow was great, but the fractional world kind of opens up a whole new realm for me to be able to make so much more of an impact. There's so many businesses that are in that target market of mine, between that 1 and 40 million, and being able to help multiple founders and help companies grow and basically strengthen the economy because they're going to be as they grow, there's going to be job opportunities for people. That's really fulfilling, being able to have that forward vision and being able to help multiple companies get to a good spot and maybe be able to hire their own full-time CFO. I know when I go into a company, my end goal is not to be there forever. I
Mm.
really do want them to grow to a point where they have to have somebody on staff all the time because they're at that point. I'm the person that can get them there.
No, That's a really good point because, and I think a complexity that when I did some fractional CMO and chief sales officer roles that I found difficult was I don't think I did well enough at prepping people for my exit from the very beginning, right? And they're like, "Oh, you should come stay with us." Like, well, no, actually, I'm just doing this to kind of because I've designed telehelping for many of its years to run by itself, and I've just in the past year really ran it full time
Yeah.
and not done anything else. And so, because of that, before I would have other, I'd fill my time with other jobs because their company just ran well enough at its size and it wasn't really trying to exceed its current level. So I did some fractional CMO work, and too many times was I offered jobs, and I'm like, well, I can't do this because then you have to like help them replace you and everything, and I wasn't really keen on that all from the very beginning, so it made it difficult at the end. So that's something I'm sure your replacement is the goal. We're like, well, I'm going to help them go the right direction, then I'm going to slide myself out and hopefully slide someone in.
Yeah, absolutely. That to me, that's a measure of success. That means that I've helped them get to a good point in their business growth where they can have that full-time CFO. If they have to keep me, then you know what? Either they're not ambitious enough maybe to grow beyond a certain point, or I'm not doing my job right. And I would hope that I'm able to come in and give them that sound advice, give them the insights so that they can really take it to the next level, because that's what makes it fulfilling for me.
No. And I get that too, because I would like everyone who hires one virtual assistant with us to hire 10 virtual assistants with us eventually. Unfortunately, that's not most people's goal. We have a lot of folks who come on who start with a virtual assistant who just want to. I have a guy who just wants more golf time on Thursday, right? And a lawyer who when they're not in court, they're drowning under their desk, following up with clients and requesting things. And so we often find that our decision to work with us is a lifestyle choice.
Mhm.
Um, there are folks who come in who's like, we're trying to grow. Those
Yeah.
are good clients. I like those clients, but I like the lifestyle ones a lot better
Mhm.
because um, their performance and KPIs are measured in like a conceptuality that is like, how free am I from the burden of my company versus how many calls did I close this month? And
Right.
so, and I like those places because I'm a sales and marketing person, all about ABCs, always be closing, right?
Right.
However, I really like the lifestyle side because since I've become a family person, right? Especially with my two boys, I'm really big on balance. Like I go to the beach every day with my son. And so I go to the beach, play on the beach, I surf, he hangs out on the beach with his mom, and then, we come back and we hang out together. And so I'm going to be done at 4 o'clock every day, regardless. And my team will be sending me messages at 8 o'clock at night. That sounds great. And I will respond back to them up until about 9 p.m. because that's the way the business. However, at 4 o'clock, I'm going to the beach. And so, so it aligns more with my soul. Um, I love what you said about the helping other entrepreneurs. Like that is such a rewarding piece. And it almost feels, I'm sure to you, like you get to like be a part of other startups sometimes. Like you're in other startups. You get that that high that you get off of like being in a new company sometimes. Like, ooh, I'm learning things that I didn't know. And so I love that about startups so much. And so I get that same fulfillment working with companies as well.
Yep. And that's really what I want to do, is be able to help these startups, because like I said, a lot of them come to the table with some great ideas that can really make a difference for other people, and they maybe just need some guidance from the finance side of things.
Sometimes it's the obvious things that are the most difficult to see. And so we have blind spots on us as entrepreneurs, right? And sometimes the things that are like, wow, why didn't I think of that? It happens to me all the time. Like I hit down like, why didn't we think about this? Like I'm saying, well, I'm smarter than that. Like, why didn't I see that? And it's just because we are seeing so much at once already.
Hmm.
And so it's difficult. And one of the things I enjoy most about my clients is I have an onboarding process where I get to like help them design their remote roles. And I feel like I'm doing so much, but I'm really not, right? It's really simple to me. It's rudimentary, but to them, you see it kind of like change them. It kind of their perspective on things, and that is so rewarding. Like saying, like, "Oh wow, we could do it this way," and I'm like, you can." And so for you, you're like, "Hey, I bet if we just, you know, you know, look at our employee count versus the revenue, and we can understand how well are we appropriately staffed." And if the context of growth isn't on the table, then are we overstaffed? If so, then why?
Right.
Oh, well, we have 5 people doing the same job. So let's talk about that. And then, I tell people all the time, if you can fix your numbers, you don't even have to grow your business. Like if you can make your organization run more effectively,
Right.
create a larger net profit, right? And
Mhm.
so I tell people all the time, it's like you have $1 million business and you're operating at 10%. Imagine if you were 20% net profit. You just forget being a $2 million business. You're a $1 million business with $100,000 extra dollars in net profit. So it's a $2 million business to you basically. And
Yeah,
so,
exactly. And that's why, when I come in, one of the first things I start talking about is margin. I mean, really understand where your costs are. Where can you be more effective and efficient in what you're spending? Between margin and cash, those are the two big things I think a lot of companies need to have a better understanding of. Not just where you are right now, but where you're heading in the future. So many companies, they have an idea of what their cash is right now, but they haven't put together a cash flow forecast. They don't know where they're going to be in 12 weeks' time. They don't know what their runway is. And, that's when they can kind of get into trouble because it's cash that runs a business. I mean, you can have all the profit in the world on a piece of paper, but if you don't have the cash in the bank, you're not going to be able to pay vendors or do your payroll or any of that. And cash is king when it comes to business.
yeah, payroll is just something you can't put on a credit card. I'm
Nope.
sorry, guys. That just one of those things. Like we have a strategic reserve of 3 pay cycles, right?
Yep.
Just like if the company were to stop making money today, like can we make payroll for 3
Payroll.
payrolls? Like the very important piece. Is it necessary? Hopefully never, right? But I've been at companies where, one of the companies that I'm a co-founder of is finally selling after 10 years, and they're selling for $110 million, right? Huge exit. 4 years ago, they couldn't make payroll.
Yeah.
So, right, and you're asking yourself, how can a company that's selling for $100 million this year not make payroll 4 years ago? And it's because they had a really, really bad CFO, right? They had someone who wasn't dialed into cash flow. Like there was this conceptual, like on paper, he's like, oh, well, we have all this money that's ours, right? And our AR and everything. We're looking at all this. This is great, right? But really, healthcare doesn't run that way. And so healthcare, just because you think you're getting paid, you could be expecting $5 million, and they cut you a
Mhm.
check for $1 million, and you're like, but I was expecting 5. And then you'll have to spend a year and a half explaining why you should deserve the other 4 million.
Well, yeah.
And so it's tough. And so you got to know your industry. And so,
Yeah.
Laresa, I'm so thrilled to have talked to you, just because it's such a relevant and important topic. And being that married with the element that you are a family woman who has so much importance in that, really makes me think of you as two very important bedrocks. Know your number and know that you have your family. Like you have that's definitely your standing on the world. So very stable and very methodical. And I've really appreciated kind of our conversation today because numbers and family are my two favorite things as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I've really enjoyed our conversation. And I really appreciate you having me on the show.
No, this has been awesome. And thank you so much, Larissa. You have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.
Sounds great.
Show was brought to you by our official sponsor, Telehelping. Need support for your business? Telehelping connects you with top-tier remote staff to help you streamline operations and fuel growth. Go to telehelping.com and get started today.